Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Warman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll talk a little bit more about the now struggling quite a bit Kansas City Royals. We'll check in on our NBA and NFL picks that we NBA and NHL picks that we made uh, several weeks ago for the conference championships, which are now completed. We're getting ready for the finals in both of those leagues. And we'll talk some about the NFL a bit too. Some news that's been going on, some contract signings. We'll kick off today's show though with the Kansas City Chiefs visit to the White House. Mike, seems like everyone was there. Everyone is in good spirits. Any thoughts on the Chiefs visit to the White House?
Well, I thought it was interesting that Joe Biden tried on a helmet. Usually, I don't think you usually see the helmets worn,
Right.
but and he also appeared to encourage Travis Kelce to speak, although Kelce was reticent and thought he would be tased if he seized the microphone. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, it's another trip to the White House. I guess it's only their second trip. They when they won the first Super Bowl, it was COVID era, or it was right before COVID, and then it was the height of COVID
When
when
the
they
visit would have taken place.
yeah, and it would have been more, I guess, more controversial because it was Trump in the White House. But Harrison Butker was in the crowd, was with the Chiefs to meet President Biden. So uh, people of all political stripes, I guess, met uh, President Joe Biden. But yeah, you have any thoughts on the presidential visit? It's nice to have, I think. See the Chiefs becoming America's team, do you think?
Yeah, at least a bit. Yeah. So I think they seems like they've probably taken over, or you would think that they've taken over from Dallas's claim to a game license. They haven't really made a deep run in the playoffs for quite some time, let alone win a Super Bowl. So
They're America. They're the kids team of America. I think kids kids who like Taylor Swift, and also kids who like Patrick Mahomes. I know in my daughter's school that the Chiefs are the most popular team, even though they're in
really,
Western, somewhat rural Western Maryland. Some people like the Ravens and the Steelers, but I think the Chiefs are maybe, if everybody, lots of people's second favorite or first favorite team. So
that's
uh,
surprising, especially with Baltimore,
yeah,
nearby, and they're in the same. A lot of times, it's like the team that's in the other conference. You
mhm,
can be okay with the kids of the area being a fan of,
yeah,
but the national team, no,
yeah. Well,
it's very
traditionally it's
difficult.
the Steelers and the Ravens. It's kind of split 50-50
Yeah,
with maybe a little bit of old, I guess, Guardians. I'm not Guardians, Commanders now, no longer Redskins.
yeah.
They haven't been very good for a while, but it probably would have been almost a third each, maybe 20 years ago. But now it's become probably, I'd say 40%, 45% Steelers, 40 to 45% Ravens, and then maybe 10 to 20% Washington.
But no Eagles fans that close.
A few, maybe 5%, maybe you can say
Yeah,
5% Eagles. But in
yeah.
other
I would
parts,
think Dallas would be not popular at all there because of the proximity of Washington. You would think they would
that, and also I think
not
proximity
like
to
Dallas.
the Steelers. I think that they were the big rivals in the 70s, the Steelers and the Cowboys.
Yeah,
Um, Maybe there might be some lingering Colts fans from the old Baltimore days. I'm not sure. But my daughter Marie's, one of her favorite teams is the Colts because they're horses, and she knows not to be. She likes the Broncos, but she knows not to like the Broncos too much because they play the Chiefs a lot. So uh,
yeah. Oh,
she's
did you see that story about the Colts stadium being converted to uh an Olympic pool for the for upcoming Olympics trials? That
oh
they've actually
no,
brought in these like gigantic like support beams, and then thousands and thousands of gallons of water that they've used to fill the tanks
Huh.
that they've created basically. So they've made this gigantic Olympic stadium essentially for into yeah into like a what will be the aquatics center for some of the Olympic trials anyway, which
Oh,
is
interesting.
kind of
No, I
doesn't
didn't know
turn an
about
NFL field into a
Olympic pool.
gigantic swimming pool.
And
Seems crazy, right?
with diving and stuff, especially how deep you have to make it, it would be probably. I guess
Right.
it's, so it's an, I guess would be an elevated pool.
Yeah, so they've got like all the support work to like hold
Mhm.
the water contain the water inside. So yeah, it seems like quite an undertaking to do that. But I guess they're using the Indy's field for that. It's pretty impressive though, like what they're trying to do. I don't know why they're trying to do that. It seems like should be aquatic centers that
Something
they
that
could
Lucas
use.
Oil Stadium wants to promote. I guess promote themselves as a well. I guess the NCAA is headquartered now in Indianapolis, so maybe they want to showcase that they can host all of the different sporting events.
Worldly, it doesn't matter what it is. You can
Yeah.
convert the field to it. Yeah,
Um,
I thought it was kind of cool anyway. So
yeah. Speaking of, yeah, in other NFL news, so there were some big contracts signed the last couple of days. Probably the biggest two, or maybe two most important, were Justin Jefferson had a 4-year contract extension, as did Christian McCaffrey. Jefferson scheduled to make 4 years, 140 million or 35 million per year. Christian McCaffrey, running back for the 49ers, two years, 38 million, 19 million per year. Would you rather pay Christian McCaffrey, if you were a GM, would you rather pay Christian McCaffrey 19 million a year, or would you rather pay Justin Jefferson $35 million per year?
it seems really difficult to justify spending that much money on running backs. I mean, he is a special running back, has some injury history there too. Uh, when he's healthy, he can really carry a team, but it's still $19 million for a running back. And you can get a running back out of college that wasn't drafted for almost nothing, basically. So it seems
Yeah.
hard to justify that. But 35 million a year for a wide receiver seems crazy too. But yeah, is among the best wide receivers there are currently in the game. So I don't know how Minnesota can justify it with their quarterback situation,
Yeah, Sam
but
Darnold or perhaps JJ McCarthy by the season's end, if Darnold falters, that's not a really recipe for playoff football.
yeah, I don't think you would start a franchise around a receiver that costs that much to your cap, at least anyway. But I think the only way it makes sense or can justify it is a team like Minnesota having that much cap space left because they're spending so little on their quarterback situations right now.
Yeah, they lost Cousins, they were spending a lot of money on. Basically, they put all that money into Justin Jefferson, who, yeah, like you said, he is one of the top receivers. I don't know if I think maybe I'd rather have Tyreek Hill.
Mhm.
He's older. He's a lot older than Jefferson. Jefferson's pretty young still. Jamar
Yeah.
Chase is probably up there too. Um, that, but they're those. It seems like the highest receivers are making them around 30 million a year. Amon-Ra St. Brown got a little over 30, maybe 32 million a year, something like that. So
Oh,
it's in line with what the
did,
high end receivers were getting. But
didn't Miami's other major wide receiver that isn't Tyreek Hill get a big contract too?
Waddle got a big contract.
Yeah, Waddle. What was Waddle's deal?
Waddle signed,
It's
uh,
3 year, $85 million deal.
so not quite, so about 28 million,
A little
almost
shy of
29
30.
million.
76 million guaranteed too. So it is a big
Mhm.
contract, but he's the number two receiver, right? So the $28 million
Mhm.
gets you a number two receiver on a team you already have a what 30-ish million dollars for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I think Tyreek Hill's actually making only like 20 million this year, or 19 million, because his
Uh,
last year has a giant balloon contract. It seems like he goes up to like 46 million a year, which is not guaranteed. So I think that's gonna he's
uh,
gonna so he's probably gonna want a new deal. as well. And I think they're still wanting to pay Tua Tagovailoa whatever he's extending. So it seems like a lot of the Chiefs rivals are looking for contract extensions because T. Higgins is looking for a new contract in Cincinnati. He's being franchised this year. Also, Jamar Chase in Cincinnati, new contract. So there's keeping up with the Chiefs in a lot of ways, but the Chiefs are not paying. They're like you mentioned, running backs. They're not paying running backs anything. They
Yeah.
bring back Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but this is on a free agent deal. It's not his it's probably much less than he made last year on his first round draft pick deal. And Pacheco is a seventh round pick, and the third string running back is going to be somebody who may be an undrafted free agent or kind of somebody picked up off the scrap heap. So it's and then the receiving core also isn't going to make a ton of money either. Kelsey did sign
Hmm.
an extension within the last couple of weeks.
Hmm.
Uh, but 2 years for 34.25 million through 2027. So he's $17 million a year, a little bit more. So a little less than
Hmm.
what McCaffrey's making. Would you rather have Kelsey at 17, essentially the same price? Would you rather have Kelsey or would you rather have McCaffrey? I think Kelsey, he produces as much as a high-end receiver produces, and he's not making 30 million. He's making less than 20 million. So I think
Right.
that seems like a better deal to me than the running back who you can, I think, yeah, I think, yeah, McCaffrey's really good, but and the 49ers do have a kind of run-centric offense, at least when they don't play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, they have a run-centric offense. But yeah, like you said, McCaffrey gets injured a lot. It's still like it's way more than any other running back is making, and I don't think he's way better than any other running back. I think he might be maybe he's the best running back in football, but he's not, head and shoulders above everyone else, I don't think.
Yeah, and that kind of money, it's not just a straight no-brainer, like, yes, here's all of the money. You have to weigh that injury history and but I mean it seems like they have, a good fit with a lot of the players in San Francisco. They seem to be happy as a team anyway. It's
Yeah,
not a lot of infighting from what you hear from some franchises, at least anyway.
yeah,
So
yeah,
sometimes you like as an owner, you would think, or a general manager, you'd want to be able to, slide a little extra across the table just to make sure keep the chemistry the same and for as long as you can anyway, right? As long as they're still winning. That's one of those things too. So they still win. If they keep winning, that
yeah.
teams tend to be pretty happy at least.
Yeah, so McCaffrey's making 19 million. Alvin Kamara is number two at 15 million a year. Jonathan Taylor number three at 14 million. Then Saquon, who just signed with the Eagles, 12.6 billion. Josh Jacobs, 12 million, who just re-signed with the Packers. Joe Mixon, who's on a new team, 8.5 million. Derrick Henry on the new team on the Ravens, 8 million. DeAndre Swift on a new team, the Bears, 8 million. Tony Pollard on a new team. The Titans, 7.25 million. It seems like everybody is on a new team in those running backs, like the mid-tier running backs. But yeah, that's quite
That's less than half of what McCaffrey's going to make, right? So
yeah. Would you rather have Derrick Henry for 8 million or McCaffrey for 19 million? Both of them are, McCaffrey's a little younger than Henry, but they've both been very productive. He's a better pass catcher than Henry is, but Henry is
mm,
a bruising power running back, who's although he's been injured, they both have injury histories. But that's yeah, I think for 8 million for Henry is yeah, I don't think he's I guess I would
well,
I
that seems
would
like a bargain actually. If
yeah,
you
you
could
could
get Henry and then another player for the same amount of money for one McCaffrey, you should be able to get more value from for your franchise that way. But
yeah, the Chiefs I'm looking at the top 25 highest paid running backs. Number 25 is Travis Etienne at 3.2 million. So the Chiefs do not have a running back in the top 25.
no,
And then 25th is 3.2. So you can see how low the running back salaries are now compared to maybe what they were even at least with regard to the percentage of the cap at least 20
Yeah.
years ago, something like that, where the running backs were paid big money. Um, it's yeah, it's yeah, I think yeah, you don't need to pay a running back very much. And I guess you also, at least the Chiefs demonstrated, as long as you have Mahomes, you don't need a great high paid receiving core either. Although the Chiefs now will have a higher paid receiving core with Hollywood Brown and first round draft pick as Xavier Worthy, but um,
Is that's still maybe less than what MVS and
I think it is. I think if you add, but it's also
Rasheed
all the
Rice and
Chiefs
last year,
receivers are
maybe
going to be or if you combine every Chiefs wide receiver, it's probably significantly less than what Justin Jefferson is making
gets
by
by
himself.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you're right. I would be shocked if you're not correct on that. I am pulling up spot track in the background here, so I
Okay.
should have an answer for you here fairly soon. We have to find the right category. 'Cause it's always spot track isn't easy to navigate. Have you noticed that?
Sometimes, yeah, it can be slow and wonky and
But there are like specific like things you have to find, like contracts by, and then sort them by
position and stuff. Like
position. Yeah.
I've got it up. So they have, yeah, even with all their probably people that they would probably not keep for the regular season, I guess it's significantly lower than what one player for the is Worthy hasn't signed yet, but
Right. But Tony is the highest paid chief what receiver this year, right, apparently. Is that right?
Mark
No,
Hollywood,
that's full contracts. That's not this year.
yeah, Hollywood Brown's making cap hit is 8.25 million. Justin Watson is making more money in a cap hit.
Is that right?
His cash total is lower, but his cap hit, if we go by cap hit, Justin Watson is the second highest paid. And then Sky Moore, so it goes Brown, Watson, Tony, Sky Moore, Rasheed Rice, and then all the other guys are making somewhere around a little less than a million. Montreal Washington, Cornell Powell, Justin Ross, Reese Zammit, Nico Remigio, who is I've heard good things about Nico Remigio out of camp, the mini camp, which is kind of beginning in off-season workouts. And also there's Louis Rees Zammit, who is making waves as well. And he, somebody had said, I think Dave Tobin said that he actually might not only be a returner, but he actually might be the kickoff specialist, him or Justin Reed, because the kickers with the new kickoff formation are often asked to tackle or be in on a tackle much more than they would have been in previous formations. So maybe they won't use Butker unless they need unless they want a touchback or something like that. They might not use Butker as much as a kickoff person.
I think you don't want touchbacks now, right? Isn't that the part of the new rule? Is that the
Well, it goes to
touchbacks
the
actually
30, yeah.
is actually sort of penalizing them? So
But maybe depending on how things shake out, maybe the returns are going to be always higher, and so maybe a
yeah,
touchback is still going to be better if the return's going to go to the 35 or 40 sometimes.
yeah,
Um, you still might want that touchback. Um,
it's possible. The team, yeah, it may be that everybody will abandon that, trying to like do what the league wants them to do by kicking it in
yeah.
play.
But you'll need
Yeah,
to do a lot of directional kicks and maybe try to have the ball bounce a lot. Yeah, it's gonna be a different world of the kickoff. So that'll be interesting to watch uh, how those turn out. But yeah, Reese Zammit, it seems like the way they're talking about it, he actually might make the team this year, which
yeah. Well,
is
they've
a
talked about him in a lot of different roles. It seems like he's almost has a spot that he has to just hold on to more than like he has to
Mhm.
earn, right? Is it- because they're talking about him in a lot of different ways. Like it could be a wide receiver, it could be a running back, it could be right.
Yeah,
He may be handling kickoffs, not just on the kickoff team, but yes, maybe being good. They talk about Reed being the kickoff guy too. So I think it's kind of interesting to have, the concept of having like a defensive player be the kickoff guy if they're going to be involved in tackles, then they'd have an edge compared to other teams that way. So he would at least be accustomed to tackling all the time, as would a rugby player, right?
yeah,
Uh, sure.
yeah. He'd be the rugby background is something. Yeah, it's a different type of tackling, I think, but he'd be able to grapple and wrap him up and stuff like that. So he wouldn't be afraid. He wouldn't be afraid of the physical contact.
Yeah.
Exam it for sure. And I think the way the rugby plays are run, maybe the return might be more of a rugby style thing, as long as you can get Zamet to remember that you don't want to to lateral the ball when you're being tackled, or kick the ball ahead if you're
Right.
in a bad position or something like that, to try to make, hopefully he remembers the rules at the proper times. But
Do you think
uh,
he'll have the opportunity to set the ball down in the end zone now, like they do in rugby? Or they actually have to like tap it into the end zone to actually
I
complete the score?
I wouldn't be surprised if that was his touchdown kind of celebration,
No.
if he scores touchdowns, which is, who knows if he's gonna make the team. But
So if you're going to do an over under right now, Vegas style, one half of one touchdown for Zamet, Reed Zamet for the year,
ooh,
right now, like
yeah.
today. So he has to make the team. He has to be involved in a play where he can actually score a touchdown, and then he actually has to score the touchdown, right? So that's a lot of things they have to overcome here. Would
I
you take that?
think I think they might use him. I think he might make the team, and they might use him in some sort of trick play or something like that. So
Yeah.
uh, I'll go over one half touchdown.
It seems like it's worth the risk to just throw that
Yeah,
out there. Anyway,
I want it to happen anyway, but yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, do you want? I guess we could talk also, if there's things you maybe want to happen. Steve Spagnuolo was honored with the Pro Football Writers Association kind of Lifetime Achievement Award. He is the only defensive coordinator, or any coordinator at any uh, position group to have won Super Bowls with two different teams. He's won four Super Bowls, I think, which is also maybe a record among coordinators. Um, do you think so? The Pro Football Writers Association also votes on Hall of Fame candidacy. Do you think Spagnuolo, when he retires, is a possible Hall of Fame candidate? There are no assistant coaches in the NFL. I guess in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Spagnuolo was the Rams coach for 3 seasons, but his record is not very good.
Mhm.
So he won't be making it in as a head coach. But do you think that he has there's a possibility of Hall of Fame membership? I think yeah. What do you think?
Well, it seems like he has the support of the correct group of people right now for a chance to get inducted. If that's assuming that his career would end without him like becoming a head coach again and having a successful head coaching career ever. So like say Andy Reid retires and then becomes the head coach and they win, seven more Super Bowls or something under Spagnuolo. You didn't consider that as an option, or is that
Well, I think I was thinking
nuts?
maybe there might be a. I was thinking maybe if the Chiefs three-peat and Spagnuolo's the defensive coordinator for all three, that
Yeah,
that might be, so if he wins four Super Bowls in 6 years,
maybe that's enough
that
on its
might be
own.
enough.
Yeah,
Especially since that hasn't usually, these coordinators, they are hot coaching commodities, and if they win that much, they're gonna be picked up by another team. But it looks like, yeah, Spags is probably a little too old probably to be a head coach. At least for a lot of teams aren't going to want a new head coach who's in his 60s. Um,
they've
and
done that. I mean, teams have done that before.
I could see him, if Reed retires within a couple of years, taking over for Reed as a kind of interim
Yeah,
caretaker coach, if there's not like a hot candidate. But I would
That
see
seems like his most likely path to a head coaching job, but
yeah, I would say if between him and Nagy, I would say probably you would pick both of them been head coaches before, but maybe you would pick
mm,
Spagnuolo and still leave Nagy as the offensive coordinator, but have more autonomy with than he would under Reed because he's Andy Reid still has his fingerprints all over the offense if that's what happens. But I don't.
yeah,
But it seems like Reed's going to be around for maybe a few more years at least. So
at least a few more years. It
yeah,
seems to be.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, and hopefully, yeah, the Chiefs have this unprecedented three-peat this year. So that might change legacies for a lot of different coaches and players on on the Chiefs because Hall of Fame voters like rings for their players, and you know um, it might it'll put Chris Jones, for example, in the four. It would put him in a. He's got three Super Bowl rings already. It would give him another one, and he's probably you'd probably say maybe that would. I think maybe Chris Jones might be a Hall of Fame borderline player right now, maybe. And but you think that would probably push him over if he had a couple big seasons continuing and
Yeah.
yeah, maybe depending on maybe you might say Joe Tooney even since he won I think maybe three Super Bowls with the Patriots before he came over to two or three Super Bowls with the Patriots before he came over to the Chiefs. So he's one of the best guards, and he would have many Super Bowl championships, but maybe he would be viewed simply as a guy on a lot of Super Bowl winning teams, and not himself maybe a Hall of Fame player. But things like that um, you know, might come into play if the Chiefs, if the Chiefs win the three-peat, or if they
Yeah.
win another Super Bowl, maybe not this year, next, if they win in
The next
the
couple of
next
years.
couple of years, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like you mentioned, though, it's the same people that vote for the Hall of Fame as vote for what you just mentioned, but the for Spagnuolo for
Kind of, yeah, it's kind of it's
what
sort
was
of
it?
like it's sort of a lifetime achievement award. I didn't see what
The
um what they actually called it. Uh, it had a name of a coach. It was the Dr. Z Paul Zimmerman Award for lifetime achievement as assistant coach.
hmm.
Uh, and
But if it is the same voting block that also voted for the Hall of Fame, then he's already, seen in a good light, at least by that same community. So that's, saying something for his chances right
yeah,
there.
yeah, Dr. Z Paul Zimmerman. He of course was the longtime Sports Illustrated football
Mm.
columnist, who who infamously had a bad track record at predicting the Super Bowl winners. I think I remember when I was a kid that he picked the Bills to win one of these Super Bowls, and they said, "Bad news, Buffalo. Dr. Z predicts Bills to win Super Bowl," and of course they didn't. So, um,
Yes.
but his columns were interesting. I used to read those, but he died a few years ago.
Mm.
He had a stroke before that, so he was
Mm.
uh, kind of take Peter King kind of took over for him for a while, and then Peter King.
Mm.
Now it's Albert Breer at Sports Illustrated, but as the kind of main football writer. But the Sports Illustrated itself is no longer in the position that it once was because given the changing media landscape, and we no longer have magazines that people subscribe to really uh, anymore. It's online writing, so it's a different world than when Dr. Z, as he was called, was in his prime. I don't think he actually had a doctorate in anything. I'll look it up, just make sure.
What was his name, Doctor?
Paul Zimmerman. He died in 2018.
Mm.
Uh, and he is yeah, he wrote Sports Illustrated from 1979 into the 2000s, so for many years. Um, His wife was a doctor, though.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
yeah, unfortunately,
he wasn't a doctor, but she was, and he was referred
mhm,
to as doctor. So that's
yeah.
probably annoyed her a bit, I would assume.
I believe she was simply called the Flaming Redhead in his columns because she had red hair. Uh, but yeah, he suffered a stroke in 2008, and then he had later strokes, and he was unable to walk or write, and only able to say a few words, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow.
but he died 10 years later from complications from those uh,
Hmm.
strokes. But he was 68 in his 80s when he died. So, um, but he anyway. So that's I think that's I don't know any other NFL football news that we have.
I don't think so.
Well, maybe we'll move
I think
on
that was
to
the smattering of things that we noticed. I think.
yeah. Well, maybe we can move on to the NHL, which recently the Western Conference Finals and the Eastern Conference Finals recently concluded. Each one was won in 6 games by a team that we predicted to win. Your Florida Panthers defeated the New York Rangers 4 games to 2 to advance to the Stanley Cup Finals. My Edmonton Oilers defeated the Dallas Stars 4 games to 2 as well to advance to their first Stanley Cup Finals. I think since 2006. I don't know when the last one they won was. It might have been in the 80s when Wayne Gretzky was actually playing for the Oilers. So we
What
have
is it? The Canadian team hasn't won in 30 years, though, I think is something like that, right?
yeah, it's been
So a shot to reclaim some of Canada's glory. Although
yes,
so many of the players across the league are Canadians, but
yes,
it is
most
their national sport.
players are Canadian, but it hasn't been a Canadian team that has won since 1993 when the Montreal Canadiens, ironically, but perhaps the most Canadian team since they're called the Canadiens,
Yes, they're
won.
literally Canadian.
And they speak French there. So they won 93. So that was their the Edmonton Oilers last won in 1990. Uh, that was their
Pre-high school for us, which is seems
pre-high
like a long
school.
time
Yeah,
ago
it
at
would
this
have
point.
been 89, 90 school year. That would have been when we were in the fifth grade, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, sounds about right.
Uh,
Did you see how unlikely Edmonton's win was in that game 6, though? Did you look at any of the stats in that game?
I did. I saw the goal of Connor McDavid, his power play goal, where he somehow got the puck between all these different guys and just flipped it in. Uh,
Yeah,
so
but
he was the
they
guy
only managed 10 shots on goal in the whole game, and they won 2 to 1.
2-1. So
Yeah,
good
and
goalie work.
in the first period they managed 3 shots, but 2 of them were goals. While their opponent ended up with like 35 shots on goal in the game, but only managed to get
One
one in the
goal.
net the whole time. So, unlikely sort of scenario, but where they could barely get anything on goal the entire game in, but they had a huge percentage go in
Yes.
comparison to their opponents. So that works. That's enough. 10 shots though is a tiny number for a hockey game. For like a soccer game, that seems that might be a relatively high number, but shots on goal.
Yeah.
For hockey though, that's very low.
That is very low. Yeah. I was reading.
Extremely low.
Yeah. That's like a soccer game. Like yeah, you said score. I was reading about the 1989-90 Edmonton Oilers. Actually, that was a team without Wayne Gretzky. It was the year that Wayne Gretzky was traded to the
Oh,
Kings. It was actually the Mark Messier led
mm,
Edmonton Oilers. So Messier, I think Messier is probably more famous for winning the Stanley Cup with the New York Rangers
oh
in
yeah.
94. But he was one of the young great players for Edmonton in the 80s and into the 90s. So um, he was the leader on the offense uh, uh, for Edmonton, and that was their um, fifth Stanley Cup win in one, two, three, four. in 7 years. The 1990 Edmonton Oilers won, so they had a very good run in the mid to late 80s. Um, and the other two teams that won 86 was the Canadiens, and then 89 was the Calgary Flames. So that was a year from 84 through 1990. Only Canadian teams won the Stanley Cup. So 7 straight Canadian champions. Far cry from the now 30 plus straight American champions. So we need
Yeah.
Edmonton to win hockey both for Canada and also for a northern cold city against the evil Miami Florida Panthers, I think. Although I believe
That's how it's set up. The old versus the new, the hot versus the cold, Mike
yeah,
versus Andrew.
yes,
Yes.
you want those. You have predictions? Do you think the I think the Panthers are probably
We're wearing
favorite.
the opposite colors though. You're the cold weather guy, and I'm wearing the
Yeah.
blue shirt. You're the warm weather, or I'm the warm weather guy. You're
But
wearing the red
you
shirt.
could also say I'm wearing the red and white though of Canada, uh,
Yeah,
the
it's
Maple Leaf
true.
colors. So um, yeah, but yeah, I believe Florida is going to be favored. I think um, let's
And
see.
you have a good feel for what to expect in the finals.
I hope it's a good series. I think Edmonton has the best player, Connor McDavid, who's one of the top, maybe if not the top player in the NHL. Um, and but Florida probably has the better team. They've been in and around the Stanley Cup finals the last several years, even if they haven't won anything. So they've been a pretty good team for a while now. But Edmonton has kind of come out of nowhere. So it would be the first Stanley Cup win, I believe, for the Florida Panthers. Um, but it would be the sixth Stanley Cup win for the Edmonton Oilers.
It looks like, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, the odds are looking for a long series, with the best odds being, or the nearest odds are Panthers winning 4-3, but
Yeah,
next best are Oilers winning 4-2.
I see it. I see it on ESPN. The Oilers are plus 110, Panthers are minus 130. So both pretty close, but Panthers
Yeah.
are slight favorites. You can
So
get
would you take, yeah, what if you were to pick what your expectation is? It looks like, yeah, Panthers 4-3 is plus 410.
mhm.
Edmonton 4-2 is plus 460. Those are the two best, like lowest
Interesting.
odds.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Panthers 4-2 is next to 490.
I see that. Yeah, and Connor McDavid at plus 200 is the best bet to win the uh, Conn Smythe Trophy, the final, the MVP. So the Panthers are divided between Alexander Barkov, Sergei Bobrovsky, and Matthew Tkachuk. But yeah, McDavid is. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably right. I was from what I think the Panthers had the best record in the East this year, and the Oilers were kind of near the top, but not very top in their conference. So they've had a good playoff run. So maybe the hot playoff run versus the better team in the regular season. But the Panthers also dispatched their opponents pretty easily in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I wouldn't be surprised if Florida won, but I'm rooting for Edmonton.
So you're gonna stick with who you chose, who got you to this point, or are you gonna flip at the last second?
I'm gonna stick with Edmonton. So plus 110. Are you gonna stick with Florida?
I'll stick with Florida. Yeah.
Minus 130? Okay. Um,
Yeah.
Moving on to the NBA, we also have a finals set. Both of the Western Conference, Eastern Conference finals were very short, 4 games to none. The Celtics defeated the Pacers,
Yep.
and 4 games to one, I believe it was the Mavericks defeating the Minnesota Timberwolves. So both teams are going to be extremely well rested when they play game one because they had already scheduled when game one was going to be, assuming, I guess, there would be longer series in between. So there's
Yes.
not really a question. We had talked about, well, we thought that going into it, we thought that Boston's series was going to be pretty short, so they were going to have a lot of rest, but they didn't end up. And we thought maybe the rest versus rust issue might come into play, but it seems like both teams are going to be maybe equally rested or equally
Or
rusty.
rusted. Yes.
Yeah, rusty or rested or rusted. Um,
Yes.
I did pick the Celtics to win the East. That was our only the only correct pick between uh, the Dr. Scaff and Dr. Werman, but uh,
So you won. You've won. I think outright the playoff bets that we have made to this point. So
so far,
congrats.
yes. Oh, thank you very much. It's
Because
basically
you had
because
better odds, I think, for Edmonton than I have with Florida, and then you
yeah,
also won with Boston
yes,
in the NHL. So you definitely ended up with more money, although it may have been at a slight loss, possibly because Boston was negative odds. I
yeah.
guess,
I don't
right?
know.
So
I think maybe enough. I don't. I think Edmonton might have been enough to give me. I think there might have been plus
to break even at least between the
three
two
something,
bets.
plus three something or four something. So I might be up simply because I'd be up a little bit with them and Boston together. So I might be
Yeah,
plus maybe plus 50 to 100 possibly.
we'll have those numbers, yeah, down here. I think during the second,
Ooh, yeah,
but I don't know what they are offhand.
yeah, I forgot what they were as well.
Our research department will have to find that out before
Yeah, well,
this gets actually released into the world.
we got the boys in the lab to work on it.
That's right.
Um, do you think Dallas and Luka Doncic and Chris and Kyrie Irving are going to hoist uh, the NBA Finals trophy, or do you think the Celtics, who have been the best team all year, basically are going to win? I think I'm going to stick with the Celtics, but are you gonna go with Boston? Or are you gonna go opposite me again and go with the Dallas Mavericks?
My expectation is that Boston will win, but I don't like the Celtics in general as a franchise historically or now. So I will take happily Dallas, even though I don't particularly care for Kyrie Irving or his antics. But this season he seems to have been playing more and not sitting as much and getting into as many controversies, at least as of late. So
Yeah.
I'll roll with Dallas for
Looks
now.
like Dallas is about plus
Somewhat
180 and Boston's somewhere between minus 220, 225.
uh,
So,
heavily favored that for finals.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out.
Will you be watching all of these games, or will you just be checking in on
I'll be
scores?
following along. I'll watch maybe some of them, but
No.
I'm going to Ireland that's much of this coming week. So we'll actually have next week's episode air or be taped not on our usual date, but have to be pushed back a bit. So I won't be one if there are games going on while I'm gone. I certainly probably won't be watching those at 3 a.m. Irish time
You're not gonna get up at 3 a.m. and
or
I mean, you'll
whatever it
still
would
be up.
be.
You'll be down at the pub, rolling in at 3, so you'll be ready to watch the game. What do you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, whatever it might be. Yeah, maybe it won't be 3 a.m., but it might be 1 a.m. starts or midnight starts. But
No,
yeah, unless they're
that's
in the Pacific zone. I can't, I guess Edmonton is it probably mountain time or is it Pacific time in Alberta? I'm not sure what the time
mm,
zones are exact that part of Canada are, but
Yeah,
um,
it's probably mountain time, I would think, but I don't know
yeah,
for sure.
uh, well, speaking of times, it seems like it's been a long time since the Royals have been on a hot streak. They've been cold the last week or so. They lost another game again, kind of um, not quite heartbreaking fashion, but in in sort of typically bad Royals fashion, the way things have been going. The Royals had a big lead. They were ahead 5-0 at one point, and then they lost the game 8-5 as the bullpen blew it, and perhaps Seth Lugo was held in too long. What's up with these Royals losses that have been piled up? Simply that they're playing better teams, or is it something that the Royals could prevent if they were had better strategy and bullpen use, pitcher use?
I
Line
think they should have won at least a couple of these games in this recent streak, if not for just decision making. But I know one of the things that I've noticed that I've always thought was a strategy that seemed to be pretty common in Major League Baseball, but does not seem to be common with these Royals, is that how deep you will actually let your starters go, especially with starters that struggle multiple times through after, usually starters will do well the first time through the order. And the second time maybe a little bit worse. Third time usually it starts getting pretty hairy. And like with Michael Wacha, like his numbers are really dramatic. Like first time through, great. Second time through, terrible. Third time through, equally terrible. So like, but they keep trying to like make Waka go a little further than they need to, and it's cost him a couple of times just in his last couple of starts even. So, but it seems like you could limit the damage if you just allow them when they start an inning. Say like you can keep pitching until you put a base runner on. Once there's a base runner there, you're pulled because it seems like once they put one guy on, there's another guy, then maybe another guy, and then the bullpen's having a difficult time getting out of these jams that their manager allowed to be created, not just that the pitcher themselves did it. Like the manager has control over the situation; they can change pitchers at any point. They just won't take the guy out after the first runner. So tonight, Lugo already had 90 pitches thrown somewhere in this area. First guy gets
92
on,
going into the inning. Yeah.
First guy gets on, second guy, 2-run home run, which ties the game. And now they're pulling him with no chance to get a win. Bullpen then gives up three more runs, not helped by Bobby Witt Jr. error,
Hmm.
where he could have possibly stepped on second, but it was so close that he wanted to get rid of the ball in a hurry, and then threw the ball away. Three-runner score, end up losing 8-5. But part
And
of
the
the reason they
winning.
didn't get enough runs was because their lineup is stupid.
Mhm.
Like Frazier, Renfro, and Hampson in the same game hitting in a row is one black hole inning at best. But chances are it's going to affect two different innings out of every three. Having those guys there, it's insane to do these things.
Hampson's been hitting okay though. He's when he's not
Yeah,
too bland, as they say, thrown out on the bases like a nincompoop where he gets caught stealing or doubled up frequently. It seems like that's one of your biggest frustrations with Hampson, that he
yeah.
when he gets on base, he doesn't stay on base all the way to score or get left on base at the end of the inning. He still contributes one of the outs in the
So he
inning.
may as well have not gotten the hit to begin with. So he has a 315 or so batting average right now, and you
Yeah.
know, maybe 20 to 30, actually it's probably more like 30 to 40 of those points have been, him getting thrown out on the base pad, so he may as well not have been on at all. So
Toot bland.
that was an acronym I wasn't aware of until just before this
Yes. Thrown
this
out
episode.
on the bases like a nincompoop.
Like a nincompoop. It's great. It's fantastic. Toot bland. That's great.
Yeah, I had heard it, but it had been a few years since I heard it. I heard it had come up again. It was recently popped up in my reading and viewing. Um, but speaking of, well, I'm trying to involve Toot Bland, but I was thinking of I believe you have some baseball trivia for me. I have a slight bit of baseball trivia for you as well. This episode, I believe, will air on June 6th, D-Day, 1944, which I believe baseball was canceled on D-Day of because of the invasion of Normandy. Um, but do you, on another June 6th was the first introduction of the batting helmet. Uh,
Hmm.
the New York Giants, the then New York Giants, so that gives you a clue, were the first team to wear protective headgear in a game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. They actually played a doubleheader against the Pirates. They lost both of those games. So the batting helmets didn't work at first for winning, but maybe it protected some noggins. In what year do you think the first batting helmets were worn in a game?
Hmm. I really have no feel for this as to when this would be like. I mean, the NFL didn't really wear helmets until relatively modern.
Well, they
I
had
mean, like actual helmet, like they had the
leather
leather
helmets.
helmet, the
Yeah.
leather strap helmets, so not the helmet helmets, but
Yeah, probably
uh,
40s or 50s maybe was when they
I'm
started wearing.
trying to remember, like even images of players like on sports cards and stuff from a long time ago. It's got to be pretty far back there then, because I don't remember. I mean, I think I remember like Mickey Mantle wearing a helmet like in stuff. So it's gonna be like pre-50s then. I'll say maybe it was right after World War One. Maybe it was a surplus of post-war equipment they were trying to repurpose. So I'll say 1946.
Close. It's slightly before the war, at least before the
Oh,
war, the United States was involved in 1941. So the
okay.
Europeans were already in the war, and China and Japan were already fighting. 1941. Um, but I guess looking on another website though, it says that the National League adopted the use of the helmet in 1941, and the Brooklyn Dodgers and Senators were the first to fully adopt it. But then in June, the Giants and the Cubs adopted it. So maybe the Giants weren't the first to adopt it. But it says, at least on this other website, it says the Giants were the first. So I'm not sure who was the first. But 1941 was the year in which the batting helmet was first adopted um, in the National League. Um, and in yeah, I'm not sure when uh, the American League, oh, it was 1958. The American League passed a rule that required all players to wear helmets.
Wow.
Um,
That's a long time between the
yeah,
two. So they were still wearing just like caps, like the baseball hats
I guess, yeah,
up
yeah.
until then. Wow, that seems pretty crazy.
1956 was re everybody was required in the National League to wear them. So I guess
Okay.
they just teams
It
wore
was
them.
like optional.
Yes.
Like if they'd already had a hand injury, then they tended to wear them just in
Yeah.
case so they don't get an additional
Yeah.
head injury.
Yeah, veteran players though were allowed to choose to wear a helmet or not since they were grandfathered into the rule. The last major league player to bat helmetless was Bob Montgomery, who last played for the Red Sox in 1979, um, which was also, this is the year that was the NHL made helmets compulsory for non-veteran players. I'm not. Do you know when the last helmetless NHL player played?
I was probably like in the 80s
The last helmetless player in the NHL um, was looks like Craig McTavish, maybe 96, 97
the
season.
90s. Wow.
Yeah.
That seems
I
crazy.
see. Yeah. Craig McTavish, former Edmonton Oilers center and head coach, was the last one not to wear a helmet. who boldly went helmetless until the 1996-97 season. So no helmet. Uh, not maybe not the smartest of moves, but it was him. Yeah, the what was your trivia question, Dr. Scaff? Maybe we'll move on to that.
So my trivia question for you is about rebounds from disastrous seasons.
Okay.
So since 1961, there apparently have been 91 Major League Baseball teams that have lost 100 games. So we can turn this into multi-parts if you want, though.
Okay.
But of those 91 teams, how many do you think managed to win, have an above 50% winning percentage the following year?
Ooh, okay.
Following the year of 100 loss, how many 91 managed to have a 500 season the very next year?
Maybe I was thinking about maybe 15. Maybe 15.
It's pretty close. You've overestimated just a tad.
Hmm.
12.
12. Okay.
Okay, so now the next part of that is what is the best record following a 100 loss season? Just the number of
So
wins.
there's 12 teams above 500.
Yes.
So they would, and are these are, I guess some of these seasons are probably 154 game seasons.
Uh, Possibly. No, that's 60, 61 to present.
Okay, so 162 game
So
season.
these are so 1961 would be the 162 game season.
That was the famous Roger Maris home run season. He played 162 games and
Yeah.
had the asterisk for a while because he hit his 61st home run in one of the post. I think it was maybe in the game 162 actually. But he tied. I believe he tied the record in 154 or less. But he went on a little homer slump and then hit the winning record winning home run until record breaking home run. I guess if I'm speaking English. Until game 162. So
Yeah.
let's see. So 12 above 500. So 12. So is that 500 or above 500?
It was above 500.
So they have to
12
be
were at
80.
least one game over 500.
So they have to be 82 and 80 or 81 and 80 if there was
There
a
was one team that was 81 and
81 and
80.
80, a game not
So
played.
they actually did not play one of the games then
Yeah.
they didn't yeah, have a rain out
Let's
or something that they
let's
didn't
say
finish.
the top is I'm gonna say 88 wins.
Very close. So two teams had 87
Oh, 87 was the
wins.
highest.
Yeah.
87
So
and
that
75.
yeah, so like the Royals, I think currently are on pace to finish above that. I think even fan graphs projects the Royals at 86 wins right
Mhm.
now, which is just below
Before
the
they're three
best
and
ever
seven.
rebound of any team ever.
Yeah. Before their 3-7 uh last 10 stretch, I believe they were
Yeah.
at least as high as 87 and 75 by the by Fangraphs predictions when they still predicted the Royals to be below 500 the rest of the stretch of the season. So
Yeah.
um
I think part of it is because right now they are playing above 500 teams and they have not done well against a bunch of 500 teams.
no.
So apparently more of their schedule gets a bit easier after they get through this stretch. So I
Who
think
would
they have a sub 500 team opponent winning percentage from here forward. So that may be a little bit hopeful for Royals fans that maybe they can get back on track by playing some weaker teams.
who
You
were
gonna
the
say something?
teams that won the 87 games?
Do you want to take a guess at them, or do you want me to just
Was
tell you?
one of them the Twins
Uh,
or the Braves?
the 2016, 27, 2016. I don't know why they have them. 2016, they lost 100 games. The next year, Twins, they went 59 and 103 to 85 and 77.
Okay.
But the top two were one of them was a historically bad team from 1988, where they lost.
Oh, that was the Baltimore Orioles because they lost about 22 or 23 in a row at the
First, yeah,
beginning.
20 something games,
Yeah.
yeah, to start the season. They went from a 54 and 107 season to a 1989's 87 and 75.
Okay.
So a 33 game
Okay.
win increase in one season is very impressive. The other was the 66-67 Cubs, going from 59 and 103 to 87-74. One, because they
Hmm.
apparently had a tie somewhere in
I
there.
guess the game that ended because of darkness or something, because
Probably.
Wrigley Field didn't have lights and they didn't finish the game.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they kept it as a one tie rather than just not call it.
Showed it as a
I
tie.
guess it played. I guess they played more than nine. They played more than 5 innings though, so I guess they have to keep it as a tie.
Yeah.
But they never completed.
And, in some cases, they might come back and finish that game.
Yeah,
It's
I
yeah,
guess
for
it
some
didn't
reason,
matter for tiebreakers or something. So
yeah, then maybe it didn't matter. Yeah.
interesting.
So, so if the Royals do manage to win, what their projection is, they will be in that tier, at least anyway, for the season. Do you think they have a shot doing that? Or right now they're in this amid a very poor stretch. You think are you worried about that extending, or do you find hope in that the fact that they've done well against sub 500 teams that maybe that's enough to pull them through?
I'm a little worried, but I'm also still a little hopeful. What were they last year? 56 and 106 was that their record?
I think so. I think
Um,
so.
so they'd have to win 89 to get to that 33, be 89 and 73. Um, I don't know if that's I don't know if that's possible, but I think they might be. I still think they're 5.5 games. So they were before this Cleveland game. They were 5.5 games above the wild card spot, and the third wild card was the Twins, and the fourth wild card, I believe, or the team on the outside looking in. One of them was the Tigers, who they were tied with. So it seems like the Central has four pretty decent teams, and this
Mm,
year, and one really really lousy team in the Chicago White Sox, but
yeah.
I think the
And
Royals are still in good playoff position.
the unfortunate part is that the schedules aren't quite as imbalanced as they once were. So we won't be facing the White Sox 19 times this
Mm-hmm.
year because the new scheduling set where you play all 30 or all 29
Other
other
teams, yeah.
major league teams. So it took 6 games away from each of the division rivals. So they're only 13 games apiece this season against division rivals.
Yeah, but they're maybe I guess you could say maybe they're adding some of those bad National League teams that the Royals probably
That's yeah.
uh, wouldn't be playing. And uh,
We also don't want to play Cleveland or Minnesota an additional, combined 12 times. They've been playing terrible against them. So it's probably good that we don't have to play them as much. Might want to play the White Sox a little more.
yeah, the White Sox are by far the worst team right now. They're 250
Yeah.
winning percentage. The worst team in the National League is the Miami Marlins at 344.
And the
So
Rockies have slipped way back there too, I think. But
yeah, 356,
they
21.
had been playing better, and then I guess they've
They
been
lost
through
three in a
a
row.
rough
Yeah,
stretch.
they're still 5-5 in their last 10. The White Sox are 0 and they've lost 11 straight games currently. How
And they had started playing better, and now they're starting to like fight people too. This is really, really weird. Like
yeah,
Tommy Pham, I guess, nearly got into a fight with a catcher, Contreras, I think yesterday or two
the White
days
Sox are
ago.
already, without looking at the standings, how many games behind are the White Sox in their division?
Well, yeah, Cleveland has one of the best records in baseball, so it's going to be very dramatic. 30,
25,
35 games,
only
20.
25 games. 25 games behind.
Yeah,
It's Royals level futility there. Now the
yeah.
Royals are 5 games out. 7 games out as the Twins, 10 games out of the Tigers. Um,
Maybe one of the things that we should be a little bit hopeful for is that Michael Massey, hopefully will be getting healed up and will hopefully be coming back just to like maybe make less playing time available for Frazier or Renfro or Hampson. But
Perhaps maybe you'd say you have There's a Nick. Who's down in AAA Omaha? Nick, you have
Otto's there. I think he's been doing at least okay. They've got some relief pitchers there that seem like they've come along pretty well. Like they should have guys that can come up. But the other thing, is maybe Melendez probably needs to go down to AAA. Like he's not hitting at all. Has been
yeah.
completely futile, like in the entire month of May, with the exception of one game where I think he had 3 hits, and I think he only has like maybe 4 hits the whole month. So it's been really rough watching him play this season. He's playing a little bit better in the field, but he still doesn't. He still takes some weird routes sometimes to get some balls. So it's a bit of an adventure still. He's gotten a lot better, but I don't know, it seems like almost anybody can play at least as well defensively as him on the roster anywhere.
I guess you have Drew Waters. I was thinking of also, and he's in
Oh
Triple.
yeah, Waters too. Yeah, you could
Maybe he'll could replace one of the poorly hitting outfielders.
at
Uh,
least have him come up and see how he does at the major league level. He didn't do that well last season, but I mean, I don't know what the point of spending more time with some of these guys that they've picked up, like Frazier and Renfro or Melendez. I don't know why they're spending so much time giving them so much playing time when none of them are producing at all. Definitely not at the level of expectation, especially coming in on free agent contracts or, you know, in Melendez's case, already having spent a couple of years with the team, there's expectations there. There's he's not just not showing me. I'm not sure what the problem is.
yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah, I don't. It's something's a problem though.
But we don't need to watch this at the major
Yeah,
league level. Like you
yeah.
can go
This
figure it out down at
in
AAA
Omaha.
and then
Yeah,
come back as soon as he's fixed. But he's not going to fix it in front of everybody. It doesn't seem like he has any chance of doing.
no. Speaking of going back to AAA, should we uh, finish this episode of the and retool for next week? Our next week's episode of the One Trick Power Hour.
Let's give it a try.
All right. Well, we had another exciting episode. We'll talk next week about maybe the beginnings of the NHL and NBA finals. Maybe we'll see a pattern taking shape by that point. We also will talk maybe more about the NFL. There's always news there to be had, and we'll hopefully the Royals will have righted the ship a bit and get back and gotten back to go back to their winning ways by the time we meet again next week. But until then, I believe we have the Belmont Stakes as well. Maybe
Ooh. Is that this coming weekend?
it's on June 8th. Yes, the Belmont Stakes. So it's kind of
Mhm.
coming up this weekend. Um, currently, uh,
Yes. Who is the favorite?
Mystic Dan is the favorite. No, wait, it's Sierra Leone is 9-5. Mind Frame 7-2. Mystic Dan 5-1. Sees the Gray, the winner. Mystic Dan won the Kentucky Derby. Sees the Gray 8-1. Won the Preakness. So there are 10 horses in the race, ranging from 9-5 Sierra Leone to Protective at 20-1. So they're all fairly close. No huge odds. There's 21's pretty big odds, but like there's no 40-1 shots or something like that. So there's some fairly bunched. Um, yeah, I have no idea who's going to win, but
Did did
Honor Marie is back. So
that's
I'm gonna
that was what I was just going to ask you. Did Honor Marie make the field?
Honor Marie made the field. She's at 12 or he's at 12-1. So you know who I'm
Yeah,
going to vote for. Who I'm going to bet heavily on is Honor
there
Marie
you
at
go.
12-1. Um,
There you go.
in honor of my daughter Marie. So we'll talk about the Belmont Stakes a little bit next week as well. So you have all those things to look forward to. We hope your teams, if they're still playing, are doing well. And if they're in baseball, I guess though they all are still playing, and hopefully your bets are going well as well. And we'll leave it at that for this week. As always, I am Dr. Michael Warman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the One Track Power Hour. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. which is available on many different platforms, or our YouTube channel, which is available on YouTube, surprisingly enough.
Shocking.
Yes. So you can follow us on any of those platforms, and we hope you do. We have a growing number of devoted listeners, it seems like, around the world, even somehow that listen to this little silly podcast. But we're happy to have all of you as listeners, as viewers, and until next week, we'll bid you good day.